to learn how to create amazing game environments and assets? 3D Tutor now has a massive library of courses, whether you're interested in medieval or stylization, sci-fi or low poly, kit bash to oriental fantasy. You can find it all in one place at 3D Tutor. Find me across multiple platforms or over on Patreon, where you'll not only be able to support my work, but have access to hundreds of hours of tutorials. If this sounds too good to be true, then check out the links down below. And now, let's get started with the video. Welcome everyone, it's Neil here from 3D Tutor, back today with another tutorial. And this time, we're looking at camera cinematics and camera animations. So on the screen now, you'll see a windmill, and we are going to use this as a prop to move our camera around. If you're interested in how to create this windmill, I've got a full course on that where we build, animate, and take the windmill into Unreal Engine 5. So check out the links down below if you're interested. Now also on the right hand side, as we go through each camera movement, you will see a small video that will show you exactly what you can do with each of these camera movements. You can really get an idea how I put my course introduction cinematics together, which many of you have actually asked me about. These videos are taken from the Castle Kitbash course, and yes, you guessed it, you can also find links down below to that Castle Kitbash course. Now enough of all that, let's get started in camera, cinematics and animations. So the first camera movement we're going to look at is, I call it free camera movement. And basically what that means is it's basically done by freehand, we're not on a track or anything like that. And this can be used for simple animations of your camera. It's not to be used a lot of the time, it can be used in certain situations. So before we actually bring in our camera, let's first of all go over to layout. At the moment, you should be in modeling, or probably when you've loaded up Blender, you're in actually modeling. Come over to layout, and what you'll see, there's actually a timeline. Now at the moment, you can see that my timeline's full, and that's just because I've actually got my windmill selected. So if I double tap the A, that will then deselect everything. Now we need to bring the camera, but first of all, make sure that your cursor's in the center. So I'm going to press Shift S, cursor to world origin, and now that's bang in the center for me. Next, we're going to bring in a camera then. So Shift A, come down, and you will see one that says camera, and there is my camera in place, although I can't see it at the moment. Now, if your gizmo's not here, just press Shift Spacebar, come down, you'll have one that says move, and now you'll be able to move your camera around. Now, I don't actually need to move my camera around anywhere. All I need to do is position myself somewhere where I want my camera to be position to actually start. So if I press now Control, Alt, and 0, that then will put my camera exactly where I am actually looking. So if I move around here and I press Control, Alt, 0, you'll see now my camera actually goes to where I'm looking. So I want my camera to probably start somewhere around here. So I'm going to press Control, Alt, and 0, and there is my camera now. Now the other thing that you can do with your camera is you can come over to the right hand side and you can actually change the resolution. So for instance, if you want this a square camera instead of this 1920 by 1080, which is basically made for YouTube, but if you want it for ArtStation or something like that, then you better put in this on 2046 by 2046, and you'll see now that if I zoom out that this now is a square box, sorry, and that actually fits the scene a little bit better. So now if I come over to my view, what I can now do is actually come and put it on camera to view, and you'll notice when I click this on, that you end up with a red bar going around your camera view, and now wherever I move, basically my camera moves with me, and that's very important because that's going to make it much easier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just turn this off a minute, and I'm going to put it back on 1920, tab 1080, just to get it the right size for what I want it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in like so and get it to it's nearly all the way out. And by the way, if you don't know how to open this box here, all you need to do is press the end button and that will close it, or you can use the little arrow up here. So I'm just going to open that. I'm going to then come down, camera to view, and I'm going to set my camera where I want. And I think something like this should look fine. And if you want to really zoom out very slowly, you just hold Control Shift, and then with your scroll wheel on your mouse, hold it down and just pull it out a little bit with your mouse like so, and now we can position it in the perfect place. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to set my first keyframe. Now the thing is, at the moment, you'll probably have a timeline from 1 to 250. Just set your end to 200. So we're going to do this over 200 frames, not 250. We're going to do all of the animations over 200. And then once you've got the idea, you can go away and you can make them thousands of frames long. It doesn't really matter. You've got the general principle of what we're trying to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically press I in the viewport. So press the I button, come down, and you want location, rotation, scale. We don't want to hit just location or anything like that, because what that means is that if the camera rotates at all, you won't actually input that as an animation. So you're better off always putting location, rotation, and scale. So I'm just going to click that on, and you'll see now that we've actually inputted a keyframe at frame 0, and this is where it is. So if I, for instance, bring this up here, and then I turn my camera around, and now I just put this back to 0, you'll see it flicks right back there because of that keyframe being there. Now what I want to do is I want to come round, and I want to position my camera looking up straight to my windmill like so, not so I can see underneath it or anything like that, just get it in place like so. And again, because now I forgot, it's going to flick back round, so I'm going to come up to 200, put it on there, and then go round, and then I'm looking at my windmill. I'm going to zoom in a little bit like so, try and put it in the middle, reasonably in the middle, and then what I'm going to do now, I'm going to press I, location, rotation, scale. Now there will be a problem when I come now and put this round, and if I put it to 0, press the space bar, you will see that it's kind of all over the place, and that's not what we want. This is why this type of camera animation is not always the best to use. It takes a lot of fiddling around. So what I'm going to do is now, I'm going to come, this is how I normally do it, to frame 100, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit to get this windmill into place. So you can see now, I need to pull it up, come out a little bit, and get it all into place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press I, location, rotation, scale. Now, if we go now to 75, this is what I do, I work in 25 blocks. So I'm going to come over, get it more to the middle again, press the I button, location, rotation, scale. Now there is another problem. If you're inputting a lot of keyframes, you're going to end up with a very, very jarring animation. So that is why I'm doing it every 25 frames. And even then you still might end up with a jarring animation. So this is why we don't use it that much. Now you can see that on frame 50, it's near enough right, just needs moving a little bit over into the middle. So I, location, rotation, scale, and now let's go to 25. Near enough in the middle, I, location, rotation, scale, and now let's come up to 125. Let's now zoom out a little bit. Let's put it more in the middle, make sure we've got all of the windmill in there, press the I button, location, rotation, scale, 150, let's make sure it's all in. Probably need zooming out a little bit, we're just clipping up there as you can see, so I'm going to pull it up, zoom out a tiny bit, I, location, rotation, scale, and finally 175. And that's pretty much in the right place. So I'm going to press I, location, rotation, scale, and now I'm just going to go through it. So let it start, and now you can see it's really smooth. It still is a little bit jarring, and that's exactly what happens when we do it with free movement. And now what I want to do is I actually want to come down to make this a little bit smoother. So if I right click here and come to interpolation mode, and I'm going to put it on Bezier. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it much, much smoother. So if I press spacebar now, you can see that we do kind of get away from those flicking motions. Now if I come down again, right click, interpolation mode, and let's put it on linear, and now press spacebar, you will see that it kind of flicks between them. So you'll see it, bam, bam, and it flicking in between them. So if you do want to do it this way, just make sure you right click and you go across and you put it on Bezier, and then it's going to smooth out basically the curve of the animation. So let's put it back now and have a look at that. And there you go, you can see it's not actually that bad, but we still have got some issues that we might have to go in and actually fix. So now the next camera movement that we're going to look at is the straight down camera animation. And to do that, what we need to do, first of all, I'm going to put this onto 0. I'm going to then delete the keyframe, so I'm going to press delete, keyframes, and then I've still got it on camera to view, which I don't particularly want it on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to then move around, I can see my camera in his ear, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it onto item. And now I'm going to set all of these locations to 0. So 0, tab, 0, tab, 0. And now you can see, if I hide these out of the way with the H button, so you can just see our camera now, you can see the camera's pointing in this kind of way. But if I come and click on my camera and set all of the rotations to 0, so 0, tab 0, tab 0, you'll see now the camera is pointing straight down. If I press 0 now to look at the camera view, we can't see anything. So now what we'll do is we'll pull the camera up with this blue marker here, the Z-axis. So let's pull it up, and you'll notice that this Z-axis then moves. Now if I press Alt-H, bring back my windmill, now I can carry on moving this up. So if I move it up, you can see my camera's moving all the way up there. I'm going to click on my camera, I'm going to move it up, and this is how you do top-down animations where you want to keep it straight. You can do this as well, obviously going on the Y or the X axis exactly the same way. So now if I press 0, you'll see that is what I can see. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to then pull this up a little bit, a lot more, so it's a lot higher. So let's put it on something like 250. So now let's come in, press the I button, location, rotation, scale. There we go. Now let's come to 200. And then what we're going to do is now going to zoom our camera in. So let's put it at 50 first, so something like that. Let's go in a little bit closer as well, like that. And normally when you do this, when you reach this point, then you cut away and then you'll do another camera movement. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press I, location, rotation, scale. And now if I bring it back to 0 and press spacebar, you will see we also have a problem in this. In that, you can see when it first started, it's very slow and then it starts to speed up. That's not something that we want. We want it to be the same speed going all the way through. So what we're going to do is we're going to come, right click, interpolation mode, and this time we're going to put it on linear. And that is going to sort out that speed for us. So now you'll see when I come back to 0, press the space bar, you'll see it's all the same speed all the way through, and that is exactly what you want. Now of course if you want to speed this up, all you need to do is you need to come and just grab one of them. So you can see there I've left clicked it and then drag it to 40 or something like that, and now when I press the space bar you can see very quick, and that's exactly what we're looking for, and it's the same pace all the way through. Now we're going to look at fly-by cameras. So what do I mean by that? I mean basically we're going to have it on an actual track or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my camera there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, I'm going to press A on the actual timeline, press delete, and I'm going to delete all the keyframes. I'm going to then move this to 0, and this is where we're going to start again. So now let's bring in a curve, and we're going to use that to actually fly around this actual windmill. So let's press Shift A, come in, and we're going to go to curve, and I'm going to bring in a path. So bring in a path, and let's move it. And what I'm going to do is I want my actual camera to come in and actually spin around this thing like so. So let's spin it round. So RZ 90, and let's bring it up, bring it out like so. And then what I want to do is now I want to make this much longer. So I'm going to press S and Y and pull it out like so. And then I'm just going to position it in place. So I'm going to press 7 on the number pad, and I'm going to pull it over here like so to make sure it goes out, and then like so, and then S and Y just to make it a little bit longer, something like that. All right, so I'm happy with that. Now when I press tab to go into edit mode, you'll see that we've got all of these actual vertices, and we need actually more than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and click subdivide, and you'll see now we've got even more. Right click, subdivide, and now we have even more. Now this is great because what that enables us to do now is to get more movement on this actual curve. So if I press 7 now and I come into one of them, so I'm going to click one of these verts, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure proportional editing on. So this button here, make sure it's on, and then what you can do is you can actually pull this out, and you can actually pull it out in a really nice smooth fashion. So you can see there that we can come to this and then zoom round and go around here, and then we can bring it round like so, like this. And basically if you've got a street or something like that, you can go to the bottom of the street and then slowly rise up into the actual heights of the buildings or something like that. You can also come in as well, for instance, and grab this one and actually make it kind of like a roller coaster or something like that. Obviously I'm just showing you this is how you do this and what you're actually capable of doing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in and grab this last vert here. I'm going to press Shift S, cursor to selected, and that's going to put my cursor right there. And then I'm going to come to my camera and I'm going to press Shift S and selection to cursor, keep offset. And now my camera is there. So now all I need to do is I need to point my camera pointing at my actual windmill. So if I press RX90, press 0, and now my camera is pointing at this windmill. So that's exactly what I want. Now what I know you need to do is I need to attach this camera to this actual curve. So if I grab my camera, grab my curve, press Control P, and then you're going to come down to one that says follow path. And now if I grab my camera and press the space bar, you will see that my camera is going all the way along there, as you can see. Once we then get to 200, it should restart. So there we go, restarts. Now there is something to bear in mind. If you put this on 0, you can see that on 1, your camera actually starts there. Now you can actually change that. So what you need to do is you just need to press 7 on the number pad and pull the camera back and put it roughly in the position. It should already be the right height, like so. And then if I press spacebar and now I bring this back, you'll see that it should start from here once it reaches 200. Now we're going to discuss as well, there you go, it started from there. Now we are going to discuss the other problem. This camera hasn't got anything to track. In other words, it comes here, it bends round and it goes all over the place. So we need something to track this camera to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor in the center again, so Shift S, cursor to world origin, and then I'm going to press Shift A, and this time what we're going to bring in is an empty. And we're going to bring in an empty because that will not show up on the render. So bring in a plane axis, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pick it up and put it in place. You can see as well on our collection, it's there as an empty. Now come back to your camera, click on your camera, come over, and you'll have this little blue icon here. And basically this is the constraint one. If I click on that now, and then we'll add a constraint, and we're going to track to, and then it'll ask you what is the target, and the target is, if I click on this little pipette, this empty. So if I click on that, and now you'll see if I go back to my camera, press the space bar, you'll see that we follow that empty all the way around. Now of course we do have another problem in that we kind of spinning around. So the easiest way to sort that out is to just come away from your camera, and let's say on 0 we're going to grab our empty like so. We're going to press I, location, rotation, scale, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move the timeline up to 200, and then we're going to move this across so that the camera is following that exactly like so. Then we'll press I, location, rotation, scale. Now we have one more problem. We can see that the camera gets to the end of the track way before it should do. It should get to the end of the track at 200, and that's not something we want. So how do we fix that? Well, we come to our actual track, we come over to the right hand side, curve actually function is, so click on your curve, and you'll have one, if you come down, that says path animation. Click that down and it'll say frames 100. So what's actually happening is Blender thinks that this track is ending on frame 100. So all we need to do is just click that on, click frame 200, and now if you press spacebar, you'll see it goes all the way through, and it'll end only when we get to actually frame 200. So there you go. Now let's put this back then. Let's press 0 now, and let's have a look what that looks like, and you can see it's much better. Now of course this needs a lot of fine tuning and things like that, but you've actually got the principle then on how to actually do this. So now let's put this back and move on to the next section. So this part of the camera movement is called cinematic camera fix. That's what I call it. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to actually grab my actual track. I'm actually going to delete it. It's a curve actually, but I'm going to delete it like so. I'm also then going to grab my actual empty and I'm going to delete it just so I've got a fresh basically scene to actually start from. I'm also going to grab my camera, come over to the right hand side and just click on my constraints and actually delete that off. Now we've got this camera here, so what we need to bring in now is, if I press Shift A, come across again to curves, and we're going to bring in a circle, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the S button and really pull this circle out. So what I want my camera to do now is actually move around this actual windmill a full 360-degree turn. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my camera and I'm going to move it relative to the actual curve. I'm going to have to move this again, but I just want it somewhere at the moment. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab my camera, grab my circle, press Ctrl B, and we're going to follow path like so. And now you'll see my camera starts there. When I press the space bar then, it's going to zoom around the circle all the way around till, again, frame 200. So now we know what's going on with that. Let's click on our curve, put this on 200, like so. And also, let's press 0, like so, and we can see that our camera starts here. Now, if you want your camera to start somewhere else, just simply grab your circle or Z and just move it around wherever you want your actual camera to start. So you can see now, if I put this on 0, for instance, and I want my camera to start from this side, if I press RZ, and I'm going to spin it, like so, around to, let's say here, that's where I want my camera to start. Now, we do have another problem in that this is not in the center, for first thing, and also my camera's really not looking at this in the center. So how do we fix that? Well, we need to come in and bring in another empty. So I'm going to press Shift A, come down, empty, plane axis, and let's just bring this up a little bit. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm actually on my camera. So I'm just going to move away from it, bring my camera into place, and I'm also, I think, going to press 7 and I'm going to put my camera to where this dotted line is. Very important that you do that because it does make it much easier and it makes it much more smoother if you can do that. So I'm going to put it there like so, roughly to where it is. I'm also going to bring it down and put it into place like so. Now if I press 0, you'll see that I'm looking at the floor, which is not ideal, but I'll show you how we fix that as well. So now let's come to our empty. We're happy with it there. So what we'll do is now we'll constrain the camera once again to our actual empty. So track 2, pipette, grab my empty, and there we go. Now the camera is actually looking at. And now if I press spacebar, we can see we move around like so. Now the empty is important because if I grab this empty, I can actually move where my camera is looking, but you can see because the empty is in the middle as well that the actual camera now is focused in the middle exactly. So this is great if you want a 360 degree turn of the actual building or prop or whatever it is. You can also as well grab the actual circle and the camera. So I'm going to shift select my camera. I don't know where my camera is on there actually, so I'm just going to move out a little minute. I'm going to grab my camera and my curve. I'm going to press 0 now, and then I'm going to bring them both up like so, and you can see the camera just keeps tilting to my empty. So now I want to grab my empty, I want to bring it down just very slightly, and now I'm going to press spacebar at 0, and there we go, 360 degree turn. And if you want to zoom out a little bit, all you need to do, again, you need to grab your curve or your circle, grab your camera, press 0, press the S button, and just pull it out like so, bring it back to 0, double tap the A, press the space bar, and there you go. That is how you do a 360 degree cinematic fixed camera movement. Okay everyone, so that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you can use it going forward to create your own cinematics and camera movements and things like that. And let me know if I missed anything, but that is the basics of camera movement. Okay, happy modeling everyone. See you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.